Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up and the 8th review in our James Bond retrospective. As we've promised, as well as trawling back through the official entries in the James Bond canon, we'll also be reviewing the unofficial films in the series, the two iterations of Casino Royale from 1954 and 1967, and here 1983's Never Say Never Again, which saw rival Bond producer Kevin McClory, who still held the rights to Thunderball following his producer duties on the film itself in 1965, come to remake the story 18 years later. McClory would be going up against Cubby Broccoli and Roger Moore with the 13th official film in the series, Octopussy, and McClory decided that he needed to get the Golden Goose to return for his film, Sean Connery himself. With Connery's contract on Bond coming to an end in 1971 and with clear animosity towards producer Cubby Broccoli, Connery read the script for Never Say Never Again, whose title was reportedly provided by Connery's wife as an in-joke for the fact that Connery vehemently decided never to return to the character that made him a star, and decided to accept the role, so this would mark Connery's 007th and definitely final foray into the world of James Bond. We're going to make it clear from the outset that the reviews of the unofficial entries in the series are not going to go into the details of the canonical Bond movies with regards filming certain aspects. These reviews will be shorter, merely summarising what we enjoy or hate about these entries. The first notable difference about this entry is that we have no 007 trademark gun barrel to open this film, nor do we have a title design which is frankly unforgivable. Are you telling us that even without the use of Maurice Binder they couldn't have at least tried to knock something vaguely Bondian up? We just launched straight into the action, with Connery's Bond appearing to be on a training mission to rescue a beautiful girl. Over the action we have Lani Hall's limp dirge of a title song, which doesn't even resemble the typical Bond song, before we get some close-ups of a clearly past it, unconvincing 007. Bond botches up the training exercise, as we see on playback in M's office, and the usually brilliant Edward Fox is just the first of a bunch of characters this time around who plays Bond's instructor M so over the top it's laughable. At least he's trying, though. Pamela Salem portrays Miss Moneypenny with as much conviction as a wet sponge, so much so that she gets less than 2 minutes screen time. The one thing in the first act of the film that does improve on the original Thunderball script is the fact that Bond is actually instructed to go to Shrubland's health clinic to get back in shape and eliminate all free radicals. In the original Thunderball, we just see Bond at the clinic with no idea why he's checked himself in, as he looks suitably fit. There are some saving graces in the form of Klaus Marie Brandauer's charismatic Largo, who actually has some terrific byplay with Connery's Bond, most especially when they both play against each other at Largo's own game, Domination. Brandauer doesn't strike you as an obvious choice for the originally eye-patch-wearing Adolfo Celli as Thunderball's Emilio Largo, but he works for the style of film they're going for here. It's Barbara Carrera's Fatima Blush, Spectre Agent No. 12, however, who is the clear highlight in proceedings here, giving Luciana Paluzzi's Fiona Volpe from Thunderball a definite run for her money in the villainess stakes. She's sacrificed far too early, and from the moment she leaves the story, the film really suffers from tediousness in its final act. Max von Sydow also plays a perfectly fine, if bland and unmemorable, Blofeld. A lot of Never Say Never Again's plot is recycled from Thunderball, except there are some character name changes. Domino and her brother now have the surname Petacci, and Largo himself is Maximilian rather than Emilio, a first name that actually suits this version of Largo far better. We also get some ludicrous characters thrown into the mix for comic effect. Most chiefly, Rowan Atkinson is only there as a supposed contact for Bond so they could use the name Nigel Small Fawcett, and Bernie Casey as the first black Felix Leiter until Jeffrey Wright, canonically in Casino Royale, is mightily underutilised. Alec McCowan's Q, or Algernon, in this film doesn't even come close to the dearly beloved Desmond Llewellyn. Let's talk about director Irving Kershner. Having come off working on arguably the best of the Star Wars films, Empire Strikes Back in 1980, Kershner was appointed director for Bond, and he leaves a lot to be desired. The action sequences littered throughout are executed with none of the finesse and style of the official series. In one scene, Bond even dispatches of a heavy who tries to kill him in the clinic in an overly long sequence by incapacitating the man with Bond's urine sample straight to his face. The effects on the Air Force missiles sequence also look shockingly bad for a film made in the 1980s. The effects in Thunderball from almost 20 years earlier look better by comparison. Fatima Blush directing Bond into the target of sharks underwater is one of the film's better conceived action set pieces, but it's too far into the narrative for anyone to really care. The game of domination between Bond and Largo is one of the film's best scenes and actually demonstrates that Kershner can generate tension when he wants. It screams the 1980s with its computer game graphics and sounds, but it's a strong sequence pitting Connery's Bond against an intriguing adversary. Klaus Maria Brandauer plays Largo with conviction and never takes the character over the top, unlike a number of his co-stars. Bond on the motorcycle chasing Fatima Blush is actually another impressive action sequence, demonstrating that the second act of the film is undoubtedly its strongest, but it's ultimately let down by composer Michel Legrand's Tom and Jerry style score underpinning the scene. Connery puts in a serviceable, by-the-numbers performance as Bond, with very little of any substance to do this time around, save a fabulous little interaction with a doorman at Largo's function, where Bond gets him to stay completely still, otherwise the device he's holding will explode, before Bond returns to the same spot at the end of the evening and relieves the bemused man. It's a short sequence that shows that Connery hasn't completely lost his touch or his charisma in the role. The less said about his knowing wink direct to camera in the arms of Basinger's disappointingly bland domino at the end of the film is undoubtedly cheesier than Lazenby's fourth wall-breaking "this never happened to the other fella" that Bond fans are quick to complain about. Ultimately, Never Say Never Again isn't the train wreck many Bond purists would have you believe. There are glimpses of classic Connery Bond embedded deep in the narrative, if you're patient enough to sit for 2 hours to find them, but this retelling of the story pales considerably against the vastly superior Thunderball. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up. Yeah, Never Say Never Again should never be considered an official part of the James Bond series. There are some engaging characters and one or two flourishes of Connery Bond when he was at the top of his game, but essentially this is a cheesy way for Connery to end his time playing the character that essentially made him. What are your thoughts on Never Say Never Again? Perhaps you prefer it to the original Thunderball. Let us know your reviews, whatever they may be, in the comments below, and please subscribe to the channel for more regular reviews and to be notified as soon as we post more James Bond retrospective reviews. Come and find us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Crawford-Clark Close-Up and drop us an email with suggestions for future reviews or ways that we can improve the channel to crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. James Bond will return in the last of our Connery videos to celebrate our greatest moments from the Connery era of Bond. Will your favourite Connery Bond moment feature on our list? Until then, thanks for watching, and until next time, that's a wrap.